Welcome to Kaleidoscope, Let's Talk. He's written 8 cookbooks and won the Guild of Food Writers Award in 2010 for one of them. He's a restaurant critic for The Mail on Sunday and a monthly columnist for Country Life. He's also the food editor of Esquire and a contributing editor for Condé Nast Traveller, and is quite the regular as a guest and a judge on TV food series. Tomparkerbowles, a name synonymous with food in England, of course, as you may judge by the title of his newest book to hit the shelves later this year, Cooking and the Crown. I was very happy to meet him at the Gold Literary Festival this year to discuss with him all things about food. Tom, welcome to Sri Lanka.
Thank you.
How are you enjoying our Sri Lankan food is what I want to ask you first.
Well, this is obviously the beauty, the history, the culture, but for me in my job and for my passion is the food, and the food is magnificent, wonderful.
You started off as a publicist and then you jumped into food. Was it always a dream of yours to be in food, or did it just fall on your plate?
Being a food sort of fell on my plate to a point. I was sacked from being a publicist. I was a very bad publicist. I could write just about, and I love food. So yes, that was it. Ended up with the job of my dreams.
What is it about food that draws you in and gives you that innate passion?
The first being that food is a prism through which you can see everything. You can see history, wealth, well-being, you can see everything. And the second being that I love eating.
So your book, Full English, A Journey Through British with Their Food, that won an award. How do you manage to actually write about the history of a nation?
Well, what I used to a point was it is using food again as that prism to look through. Is that, when you look at a plate of food, it's not just a plate of food. It is, you can see invading forces, you can see different cultures, you can see different religions within that plate. English food doesn't have the best reputation across the world, but it's a it doesn't travel. There are no English restaurants, really. You wouldn't find any in Colombo around here. But English food is seasonal, very good quality, and not too spicy, unless we're talking about English curry, but that's a whole different subject.
So when you were compiling the book, what are some of the learnings you came across?
All sorts of things, really. It was a long time ago. It was about 15 years ago. But it was about really what happened to British food. Why, when you have a nation with amazing, we have lots of rain, therefore lots of grass, which means lots of ruminants, cows and stuff to make good cheese and meat and the rest of it. So what went wrong? So it was trying to look into what went wrong, and it was a mixture of Enclosures Acts, industrialisation. There are many factors that drew us away from the land and drew us away from our culinary heritage. It wasn't always appalling, and it's getting much better. But you come to Sri Lanka, or you go to India, or to Thailand, or to Mexico, and food is taken seriously, which it is in England, or Britain I say it is, but not everywhere.
And do you cook?
Yes, of course. I love cooking.
What's your favorite?
Wow, it changes with the day. I love chilies, and so Thai food for me, whether it's the Isan up in the north or very spicy, sort of Muslim-based in the south, I do like that very much. So stir fries and curries. I love Mexican food, which has a bad reputation in our country, but it's getting better. A wonderful, huge and beautiful country, and as regional as France or India or anywhere else. So yes, it generally has to have quite a lot of chili in my cooking. So yeah, stir fries, soups, everything.
So are there any misconceptions about British food that's floating out there that you would like to dispel?
There are so many. I'd say that British food is bland, boring, institutionalised, grey, greasy, gloopy. I think you can find that as a tourist coming to England. You can be overcharged with some very boring industrial food, but look around. We have some of the best produce in the world, and I feel that we have some very good cooks as well. So, whether it's a smoked salmon with lemon, something very simple, some of our amazing cheeses, the meat. There are lots of things you find. So just look a bit deeper. Go and have a look. Go online, look at some of the blogs or something. They seem to know what's going on.
So what's your favorite thing about being a judge on cooking shows?
Gosh, it's nice to be able to see lots of different styles of cooking. The main one I do is MasterChef The Professionals, so that's chefs of a professional level. But I like seeing innovation, I like seeing passion, and I like seeing something that I will remember for a long time afterwards. You think, wow, this person can cook. So it's about finding new talent.
So has there been anything like that?
MasterChef is huge in England, in Britain. And many chefs have gone on to open restaurants, but it's people think that you open a restaurant, it's all, hey, have your friends in, drink for free, give away food. Opening a restaurant successful is incredibly hard work, and you don't make much money from it. It's not a way to instant riches. And so in my other job as a food critic, I tend, you remember that. You don't go in and destroy restaurants just because writing, the language of hate is much richer than the language of love. You go and celebrate what you find. So my job is for my readers to go out and find good places and say, come and eat here.
So what's your opinion about Sri Lankan food?
Sri Lankan food has always blown me away. In London, there are 4 centres really of immigrant. London's a city built on immigration. That's what's made it great. And if you go to Tooting, Croydon in the south, you go to, Wembley and Harrow in the northwest, you find little pockets of Sri Lankan communities. Where there are communities, there's good food. So when I first started, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you'd go to those areas to eat Sri Lankan food. Now, thanks to the likes of Rambutan and Paradise, and hoppers in particular, it's become mainstream. People are beginning to know about hoppers and rotis and all those wonderful things. And what I love about Sri Lankan food is that mix of all those different cultures and flavors, but yet uniquely Sri Lankan. It's magnificent, and I know very little about it, but I'm learning. I'm on a long learning curve, and not a bad place to start.
Of all the chefs and the restaurateurs that you have worked with on TV and also critiquing, who has been your favorite, or what has been your favorite?
Oh gosh, there are lots and lots of chefs and friends. There's a chef coming out who's out today called Jeremy Lee, who's just written the most wonderful book. He's a friend and he's the most wonderful chef. There's an Australian chef who cooks Thai food called David Thompson, who is Thai. I mean, he's married, he lives in Thailand, married to a Thai partner. And he wrote for me the greatest book on Thai food, which, great food books aren't just recipes, their culture, their history, is everything that's all intertwined with food. Heston Blumenthal, I love, Angela Hartnett, there are so many across the world, Jamie Oliver, There are many, I find there are very few chefs I don't like. There are a few, but they're usually because they're a bit rude. But no, I like chefs, and there are a lot of good British chefs, who have gone on around the world cooking, not just British food, but French, Italian, whatever. So yes, many. But my love really lies with the more highly spiced foods of the world.
What is your comfort food?
My comfort food probably is intrinsically attached to childhood and probably the cooking of your mother, and so I'd probably say something like roast chicken, my mother's roast chicken, which is like you get a good chicken, cover it with butter, roast it so the skin is crisp, there's succulent, baked potato, peas, it just takes you straight back to childhood.
Would you say the British palate is now adventurous?
I would say now we're getting into a difficult and fraught part of British history, because traditionally, when the British were going around the world, taking over nations and doing things that wouldn't obviously pass now, I think they became quite adventurous. That's why we have such a large Indian community in the country, and thank the Lord for that. But when, of course, the Bangladeshis and the Indians came over, they realised that we didn't like too much chilli, so they changed it, they adapted it to our taste, and hence the British curry, which is very different from regional Indian food. There's one lot of people who just like having a vindaloo, which is not a vindaloo like a South Indian vindaloo, but just gravy with tons of chilli powder in it, and you'd have it when you're drunk. I think people are getting more. We go to the supermarkets now, you see lemongrass, you see curry leaves, you see chilies. 20 years ago, you see one kind of chili, a big, horrible one with no flavour, no heat. And now, you have habanero, you have jalapeno, you have Scotch bonnet, you have all these different kinds. So yes, slowly but slowly we're beginning to embrace a world of spice. We're not by any means Sri Lanka yet, but small steps.
So your next book, Cooking and the Crown, is hotly anticipated. Any hints that readers can get?
It was starting with Victoria, because there was no point going back to the Georgians, because the food was very different then. So it starts with Victoria, Edward VII, George V, George VI. And going on to the Queen. And of course, when our late Queen died, then of course Prince Charles became king, and it became a little closer to home. But there'd be no sensational, I'm afraid to say. It's really concentrating on the royal cookery, but things that I would, so it's not all lark's tongues and roasts, cygnets, but Edward VII and Victoria were big eaters. They would have 12 courses at lunch, 12 courses at dinner. There was a lot of foie gras, truffles, cream, butter. It's a wonder they managed to stay alive for as long as they did, because this food is heavy. So I've tried to lighten it, I've tried to take away, and also go through the late Queen, and so hopefully it's an insight, not just into royal eating, but into the kitchens, into the gardens. But when I tell you, I haven't got any special access. Anyone can get to the Royal Archive. I might have a couple of my mother's recipes, but yeah. So hopefully it will be just an overview, but a cookbook you can use. That's the point. It's not something to sit on a coffee table and gather dust.
So you represent a career in food that's not the usual chef's journey.
Well, I'm not a chef, I'm a cook. If you see, because chefs, it would be offensive to chefs to call myself a chef. Chefs have worked in kitchens, chefs have started at the bottom, scrubbing potatoes and moved up. I've done none of that, and so I never ever claimed to be a chef. So I definitely sit on the more food writing criticism, but I have all the respect for chefs, and I love cooking. So I'd say I'm an amateur cook. Very much. What
would be the key takeaways for someone who chooses a career that you are doing instead of actually going through the hard path of being a chef?
For writing, it would be, the most important thing for writing, I think, is to have a voice. Don't, just allow your own voice to come out. Also learn about an editor. No one wants to read 10,000 words. If you're asked to write 2,000 words, write 2,000 words. Edit it, keep it short and punchy. As a food critic, you have to be totally clean. No one's ever offered me money and I wouldn't take it anyway. But I think it's about writing. Have your own voice. And if you have people like opinions, people don't want bland. They want a view. And now there's so many outlets you can do. It's not like the old days when I was growing up, when there was only print. There was television, print, and radio. Now there's blogs, and my children do TikTok and things I don't even know what they are, but they're very big. Social media, ghastly social media. There's a million ways of getting into it now. So I think it's more democratic now, perhaps. But then again, it means there are more people. That means that quality is even more important. Quality will always win through, I hope. Good writing, strong writing, honest writing, and opinionated writing. That's what what I like to read. So perhaps that's a way.
Did you know that Kaleidoscope is on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn? Subscribe, follow, and don't forget to like us.